can start to cause, a housing issue, right? If you don't have enough supply of energy, fat, and molecules to go into this child, well, you can't house the baby to begin with. But if we're overweight, now we end up falling into the overworking. Your body is just overworking more than it should be, more than it has to. And now we add a second person, an individual, another human into the equation. Now your body has to work even harder. Now think about that stress. But bariatric surgery is a factor that actually surprised me a bit because anyone who's had a bariatric surgery, gastric sleeve, would want to not try to have children for at least the first year, year and a half, because your body needs time to recover. It's still coming over an adaptation. Remember that word, adaptation, to the surgery. But it also limits how much nutrients we're getting. And now we can be higher risk of vitamin deficiencies like A, D, E, K, important B vitamins, folic acid, and iron. And if we're deficient in these important nutrients that our child needs to develop, how can we have a successful pregnancy? But these are the two big ones that we'll talk about: depression, stress, anxiety, because there's a huge correlation between all three of these and infertility. Because the hormone overlap for when we're sad, we're negative, is completely different from when we're happy and excited. And if we don't have the right levels of hormones for fetal development, this leads to negative lifestyle habits like overeating or lack of appetite, then overweight, underweight, but also can lead to poor lifestyle habits. Think about the people who are depressed in your life, people who are always negative about their lives and situations, such as you, that I bet they have health problems, whether it's, physically, whether you can see that they have it or it's underlying. I'm sure they don't look like they're the healthiest people in the world. So this can start to lead to things like menstrual irregularities or amenorrhea, where there's actually an absence of the menses or period to begin with. And again, we need these functions so that the body can produce, house, and deliver the child. But stress and cortisol play that big piece because cortisol is that primary stress hormone produced in the adrenal glands. And those adrenal glands, when they're firing so hard, we have fatigue because of that overstimulation. And now we start to develop things like body aches, general fatigue, GI issues, sleep issues, nervousness. And the types of stress that we can be exposed to, I know you guys have heard this before, and our friends on live stream have heard it, but for those who have not, is that there's mental stress, chemical stress, and physical stress. Now, the mental stress is, I'm running late for work. I ran into this morning. It took me 30 minutes to get out of Rhode Island. It takes about 30 minutes to get across the state of Rhode Island. I was about 5 minutes into the state, and it took me 30 minutes of traffic to get out of there this morning. I was a little, I'm running late, a little anxious. I was able to recover from that mind state and say, all right, it's going to be all right. We'll talk about some tips on how you can do that. But maybe it's financial issues, maybe it's something at work, maybe it's something with mom, dad, or a family member that's stressing you out. And now we're fired up, we're anxious. Chemicals, the things that we eat, put into our bodies, course, we don't give ourselves the good building blocks we need for fetal development. Well, how are those building blocks that we are giving the child in the body, how are those being used? This is things like what we eat, sugary foods. Again, we talk about the drinking and smoking, right? Maybe there's environmental topics. But then there's physical stress, because physical stress is really, I think, the easy one that most people can understand. Macro and micro. So let's talk about that. Macro are the slips, falls, car accidents, right? Sports injuries. But even the day that you're born is a huge trauma. This is Stewie. Stewie's gonna help me demonstrate our next topic. Is that if there's somebody there that's taught to deliver children, they're taught to pull on the head, twist, to get one shoulder out. When that doesn't work to the right, they turn and twist and pull to the left. They go back and forth until the baby's free. Now, for a natural birth, they use 50 pounds of pressure. For a C-section, they use 60 pounds of pressure. If they need forceps or a vacuum extraction, it could be 72, 74 pounds. Now, the researchers that did that study found that 50 pounds of pressure can misalign your spine or mine as adults. But this is the way we bring our children to the world. And then we wonder why when these children are screaming and they're not sleeping well and they have GI issues that they can't tell us about. Unfortunately, for a lot of the population, these children end up going on medications or having to kind of grow out of it. Well, who really struggles when the baby doesn't sleep a lot? Yes, it's mom and dad. Talk about stress. Then we have the micro traumas, it's the postural situations. Again, we talked about slouching in our chairs for hours at a time. Or maybe we talk on the phone and we don't have a headset, and now our head's kinked to the side. Well, how about a sleeping position? If you sleep on your belly, which is a no-no, right? And you don't have one of these cool chiropractic tables at home or a massage table to lay on, what's your head have to do all night long? Well, you have to turn so you can breathe, right? And now this is how your spine looks for hours, because you know you fell asleep in that position. At least if you fall asleep on your back or on your side and end up on your belly, you know that you've limited the exposure. And you can go right back to your side of belly, and again, you start to develop that better sleeping habit. Or how often is it that we're hanging out, we're on the couch watching late night TV, we're hanging out like this. Or we're in the car when we were younger and we were all trying to be cool, right? Driving with the one hand, right? So these things slowly misalign our spines over time. The biggest one, I see it with kids, young kids. I even see it with kids when they come into the chiropractic office. Now we're like this. Even 5 minutes, 5 times a day, every single day, every single week of every single month of every single year, right? So, again, slowly misaligns the spine over time. Now, what's the stress doing? It keeps us in that fight or flight state. Told you we were going to talk about that because when cortisol is increased, you either have to get ready to fight the bear or you have to be faster than the guy behind you so you can get away. And if we're constantly trying to fight, if we're constantly trying to run, our heart rate is constantly increased. Blood pressure increases. And because we're fighting and flighting, we're not resting and digesting, we're not sleeping well, we can have thyroid imbalances, our anxiety increases, we have blood sugar issues. If you watched our workshop earlier this year, I'm describing a lot of people in a nutshell. right? You're not alone. But if you saw my workshop earlier this year on how you can bulletproof your immune system, you know that cortisol and stress can decrease your immune system. But we're here tonight, we're talking about how it can start to cause reproductive organ dysfunction. And again, it's because we're not in an adaptive physiological state. But Dr. Ryan, wait. Why are some affected while others are not? It's adaptation. Unfortunately, because we get stressed out a lot, we start to fall into a condition called general adaptation syndrome, where stage one is that early stage. It's usually asymptomatic, but it's that alarm stage. I don't know about you, but if my smoke detector was going off in my house, I would not just take the batteries out. I'm going to go look for the fire, look for the smoke, look for the problem, not just the effect, right? So because cortisol and other hormones increase your stress, in this stage they can actually come back down to normal during recovery. But if we're constantly stimulated, constantly running the wheel, well, now we fall into stage two, the resistance, where cortisol increases, other hormones decrease, and now we're stressed out. We have anxiety attacks, mood swings, insomnia, depression. Finally, we're overstimulated again, and now we fall into final exhaustion where our stress hormones are completely depleted, even the balancing hormones are depleted. And now it's harder to get out of this exhaustion state because we fall into depression and now longer fatigue. What the stress is ultimately doing is causing subluxation. It's causing dysfunction to the nervous system. The irritation on a nerve can cause symptoms. And if we have a subluxation at C1, the top vertebra of the spine, right in here, the base of the skull, call it atlas as well. But the blood supply to the pituitary gland, which releases hormones, FSH and LH, important for ovarian function, that can be affected. And again, we're not in that equilibrium of fight and flight or rest and digest. Tonight, we're going to talk about how it's feed and breathe. But now, overall, the relationship to our nervous system and the rest of our body gets affected. C7, right at the base of the neck, you can actually feel C7 right at the bottom of the neck, above the top of the shoulders. Now, the subluxation here can play a part on thyroid function, which can cause things like unexplained weight gain loss, cold and hot extremities, again, trouble sleeping. And your thyroid produces T4 and T3 cells, which are needed for the whole fertility process. T9 and T10, we're down here in the spine now. And these are associated with adrenal glands. We talked how the adrenal glands are where cortisol, that primary stress hormone, is produced. Does it make sense that if we have a subluxation at T9, T10, putting pressure on the nerves to the adrenal glands, well, now the adrenal glands can't balance out the good hormones to the bad hormones and keep everything at bay? Does that make sense? Right? So now we see decrease in ovulation, increased and decreased adrenal functions. T12, right? For women, this is ovarian function, which needs to be working for the egg maturation and release. Then fallopian tube function associated with infertility or ectopic pregnancies, where when the egg does get released, instead of it implanting on the uterus, it implants on the fallopian tube, makes trouble for mom and the developing baby as well. For the uterine, it's where, again, we just said implantation, but then the development of the baby. Men, you're not out of the woods. So any wives that not having their husbands watch this, don't think it's just them, just you, okay? Because subluxation at T12 is direct nerve supply to the testicles and penile function. I was told to watch how I say things, but the penis and the testicles are the male reproductive organs. And of course, we need that working well for maturation and sperm flow. Subluxation at L4, guys, we have something that the women do not. It's called a prostate gland. This is important for viability of the sperm. So now a subluxation there leads to male infertility, also known as sterility. Sacrum, sacral subluxation sends nerve information to the endometrius, which is the muscles of the female reproductive organ, and start to see symptoms of endometriosis, subfertility, cervix function as well, and incompetence there. We also see that this can lead to miscarriages. And the sacrum and the pelvis are directly proportionate to each other, because if one's out, the other one can be out, all right? And does it make sense that if your pelvis is tilted higher and lower on one side, or if it's twisted, do you think that that's going to be a good environment for a baby to grow? No, absolutely not. So getting adjusted helps make sure that that environment, that pelvic base, stays in good balance. Because when it doesn't, we see things like miscarriages, umbilical strangulation, breech births, which all increase the risk of needing a C-section. Makes for a more difficult birth. But, we talk enough about mom and dad already. What about baby students? They start to develop things that we can't quite get the information, right? I could ask you how your headaches or your neck pain or low back pain are doing. You can tell me it's an 8 out of 10 today. In 2 weeks, you can tell me it's a 6 out of 10. Unfortunately, babies can't say that. Instead, they cry, they yell, they don't sleep a lot, they don't feed well, they don't empty their diaper enough, or maybe they empty it too much. They get diagnosed with things like colic, which is where the baby's irritable and screams for more than 3 hours a day, at least 3 days a week, for 3 months or longer, and they don't sleep. We see reflux and poor latching, where the baby favors one side. Talk about the GI issues. Again, for kids at sacral subluxation, because those nerves go to the bladder, a lot of times we see children that are ready in bed past the appropriate age. And then there's C1, probably the number one subluxation I see in children, because of the involvement where, again, they're pulling and twisting on the head during the birthing process. You see things like they favor one side without voluntarily looking to the other. We also see that their head tilts or rotates and one leg's longer than the other as well. And let me tell you the story about baby Rocco, because this is a story that really stands out to me. You guys maybe have heard this before when you guys first started. But baby Rocco in this picture is 3.5 weeks old. What do you see about baby Rocco that doesn't look right? Yeah, he's arched, right? He's looking up. In fact, when babies are 3.5 weeks old, they shouldn't even be able to roll to their side. But this was the only position that Rocco was comfortable in and wasn't screaming. So when baby Rocco was born, he screamed all day, didn't sleep well, and wasn't eating and throwing up all of his food. So mom and dad take him to the pediatrician. pediatrician says, yeah, he's screaming, he's colicky, and he has reflux because he's spitting up his food. So here you go is a prescription for 3.5-year-old baby Rocco for Zantac. And just so you know, this may be something that Rocco will be on for the rest of his life. Mom and Dad didn't like that answer, so they decided to get him checked by a chiropractor and came into our office. And what we noticed was that baby Rocco had a subluxation at C1 that was shifted far off to the right. Again, we told Mom and Dad that the pressure that high up on the brainstem certainly caused baby Rocco to be irritable, not sleep well. Of course, could also be a reason why he's throwing up all of his food. And we explained that the adjustment for kids is a very light vibrational pressure. See, they don't have the muscle tone that we have as adults, so we don't even often hear an audible or a crack. But baby Rocco got adjusted. Mom and Dad decided to have him start chiropractic care. This is baby Rocco after his first adjustment. About 80% improved. He's not quite out of the woods yet. He should be looking straight across. He's still looking up. But after a few more adjustments in a few weeks, baby Rocco started sleeping, started eating and holding down his food. But who else was happy and getting sleep? Absolutely, it's Mom and Dad. Less stress. I know, I would too. Baby Rocco is now about 6.5, 7 years old, and living a very happy, healthy, young child life. He was able to avoid having to take that medication as well. But Dr. Ryan, is chiropractic safe for kids? Well, the easy answer is yes. But let me tell you how we can actually determine it, because 2019, Australia was having some issues where they felt that it was unnecessary and not useful to adjust children under the age of 12. Well, you can imagine the chiropractic world going in an uproar about how and why children should be adjusted so that they can avoid the problems that we grow up to have. And they did this study. They did a review. They called it the Safer Care Victoria Review of Safety and Efficacy for Spinal Manipulation for Children under 12 years old in Australia. Now, they sent out over 40,000 surveys, ended up getting just over 23,000 back. Out of the 23,000, 21,874 submissions qualified. Now, the ones that didn't qualify didn't say that chiropractic care was bad. They just had other factors that either they were out of the area that they were actually looking for to get the data and some other things, but it wasn't just the negative ones that were excluded. But out of the almost 22,000 submissions, there were 0 reports of harm. Now, these children, 74% of them were under the age of 2, and just about 75% were under the age of 3 months. They were seen for things like posture and colic, feeding difficulties. There was even a portion of the population that got into a chiropractor just for wellness care, just to make sure that they were growing up healthy. Well, during further review, they found that 98% were happy with the results they received from their chiropractor. 99% were happy with the results of knowing and understanding the benefits of chiropractic care. And then about 96% of parents were also satisfied of knowing any risks of chiropractic care. These chiropractors are doing some good education to let the parents know what may happen and what may not happen. But parents are satisfied. And over the next few months, as they're going through all these submissions, they finally came to this number here. 99.7% of parents were happy and satisfied with their results. 0 harm to any child. Over 21,000 children adjusted in Australia. Not one instance of harm. Chiropractic safety. Chiropractic is safe for kids. Alright? Now I know this is the reason why you guys came tonight, why you guys are watching me, because you want to know how you can how you can improve the odds to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and have a healthy birth. Well, the first thing you have to do is decrease your glycemic load. Now, this means watching the sugars that you're eating, the processed foods that you're eating. You can use the glycemic index. If you have the glycemic index, it's about this thick, about that thick. But really, it gives you all the fine details. You can search paleo diets and keto diets. They're really good ways to avoid some of those foods, but also make sure you're getting good whole foods. Which, if you saw Dr. Meininger's nutrition workshop earlier this year, at the end, Dr. Meininger gave a list of 4 things and said, all we want you to do is choose one. Because if you try to do all 4, stress. So just one. But all of these things had one thing in common. And it was to eat more whole foods. Fresh and organic, right? You want to make sure you're getting the non-GMO, grass-fed, free-range chickens and eggs. You want to make sure that you're looking at the labels. My thing is that if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't be eating it, all right? And then there's the Fantastic Four, all right? These are 4 supplements I firmly believe every single person should be taking because we don't get enough of it through our diets. The first one's a multivitamin. In those multivitamins, it's important that you have good quality B and C. Again, B vitamins are important for fetal development. Vitamin C helps to make sure that our immune system stays boosted. Vitamin D, you guys all should know that vitamin D is an essential vitamin in the body, produced mainly from the sun exposure. But because we live in beautiful New England, we don't always get sun exposure, right? So sometimes we have to supplement. Now you just want to make sure you have a good quality vitamin D. If you can, get out in the sun. Omega-3 is the third one. This one helps to all those essential fatty acids. This is the good stuff. You get it from avocados and chia seeds, flax seeds. You get it from nuts. I like cashews and almonds, personally. But this is one that always goes missed because probiotics, 85% of chronic illnesses can be linked to our gut health. And if we don't have good gut health because we treated ourselves pretty badly for a number of years, well, we have to replenish that good bacteria so that we can have a good environment inside. Now, you want to try and find a good probiotic that has at least 5 different strains, and I believe it's over 2 billion.
I've tried those before, but they make me sick.
Yeah, so you can, another good source for probiotics is the supplements. Now, first I would probably say you can, if you haven't already tried different types of probiotics, you may have just not have had a good quality probiotic. But you can also get probiotics in yogurts.
I eat a lot of yogurt.
Yeah, so you can get a good supply there. Again, just look at the labels and make sure that you're understanding what's in it. Again, really good qualities, at least 5 strains, over 2 billion IU. But if you have questions on that, let me know. May the odds be forever in your favor. Because you also want to make sure you're eating cruciferous vegetables. This is the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, cauliflower, cabbage. You can get soy and berries. These things allow for proper estrogen production for women. You can also detox, but you want to make sure that you detox in preparation, not during, right? Because again, detox is going to get rid of all the bad toxins, but there's also a chance we're going to get rid of some of the nutrients that we throw into our bodies as well. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that when you're pregnant, because who else needs those nutrients? Your kid, absolutely. Now, exercise is linked to everything else. We know that exercise boosts our immune system. We learned that in our Bulletproof Your Immune System workshop. We know that you need to have good exercise so that you have good digestion and motility when you're eating healthy foods. But exercise also helps to normalize blood sugar, increase your metabolism, increases your mood, decreases fat production toxicity, also modulates cortisol, right? We want to make sure that we're not overloading our systems with that cortisol. But if you're having trouble adapting and you're stuck in one of these stages, hopefully it's stage 1 where you can recover during stress, after stress. But if we're in phase 2, the resistance, or stage 3, final exhaustion, we have to modify our exercise routine. So stage 2, limit it to 30 minutes. Over 30 minutes, now we start to produce more cortisol in our bodies. Stage 3, because we've already depleted cortisol, now we're more susceptible to early fatigue, more body aches. So low impact exercise here is where you want to be. Yoga, going for a long walk, Tai Chi, also great methods of low impact exercise. But then there's stress management, because sometimes we need help. We need somebody else to talk to. And if we need somebody else to talk to, guys, I've talked to lots of patients, friends, and family members who've gone through therapy, and I've never heard a bad thing about it. You just have to know that that's the step you have to take. But you can also get guidance through the spiritual worship, church groups, Bible studies. Learn to say no. We, as a society, have trouble with this one because we always want to please everybody, right? And when you can't please somebody, what happens? Stress. Yeah, right? Sometimes you just have to say no for your health. No, you don't have to be mean about it. We want to be nice and kind, right? Because we also want to make sure we're surrounding ourselves with happy people. Happy people are healthier people, right? Decrease your time on social media. Guys, the only thing true on social media is that you're on it, right? So limit what you're looking at and understand not everything on Facebook is true. But make time for things that make you happy. Music, sing, dance, pets, massage. I'm sure the staff here can attest that every once in a while I get caught singing and dancing around the office, walking back as we're going to do some paperwork, to a good song on the radio, even a good old Disney song. But you know what really makes me happy? This face right there. Because that is my dog, Shelby. Shelby is 8 years old. She's a pit greyhound. And every single day I come home, Shelby is sitting at the door. I can't, wagging her tail, jumps up, puts her paws on my shoulder, starts giving me kisses. I haven't even closed the door yet, And it just makes me happy to know that there's something else out there that's happy to see me.
Our cats do the same thing. They're right at the door when I get home.
That's awesome, right? And doesn't that just turn your day around when you come home and you see them sitting there waiting for you?
And when you come in here, stress goes away almost instantaneously.
Oh, it sure does, doesn't it? I love it. So, if you want to get pregnant, you want to stay pregnant, you want to have a healthy delivery, healthy birth for you and your child, you should live the chiropractic lifestyle. You should move well and exercise. You should get good quality sleep so you can recover and heal. You should think well, reduce your stress. You should eat whole foods, healthy things, watch the sugars, processed foods, gluten and dairy that you're putting in. You want to supplement where needed. You should also make sure that you're changing any bad lifestyle habits like drinking or smoking. Again, increase your odds. But your nervous system controls everything. And if you're doing all these other things right, you're missing a piece of the puzzle if your nervous system is not functioning. So you also need to stay well adjusted. Because when you're well adjusted, not only do you feel good, you function great, but you are healthier for you, your family, and your soon-to-be child. Take care of yourselves and each other.